More coming up in our bulletin. Maresha Owiti is our sign language interpreter, and I'm Nancy Kachingira. Glad you could join us tonight. Now, controversial pastor James Nganga is set to face charges of dangerous driving causing death. Prosecutor Kyriako Tobiko says that there is sufficient evidence to prosecute him. As KTN's Sharon Momanyi reports, 2 police officers will also be tried in the case for allegedly conspiring to defeat justice.
After interrogating key witnesses who had earlier refused to record statements, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Kyriako Tobiko, says the new evidence finds that Pastor James Nganga of the Neno Evangelism Center has a case to answer. Nganga faces 3 charges, namely causing death by dangerous driving contrary to Section 46 and Cap 4.3 of the Traffic Act, failing to report an accident contrary to Section 73 and 3 as read with Section 75 of the Traffic Act, and giving false information to a person employed in the public service contrary to Section 129 of the Penal Code. The accident, which occurred on Sunday, 26th of July, saw the death of Martin Njeri. The charge of causing death by driving attracts a penalty of up to 10 years in prison, with the offender's driving license disqualified for up to 3 years. 2 police officers, Inspector Christopher Nzioka and Inspector Patrick Bayer, will also face trial of conspiring to defeat justice, as evidence shows that they attempted to cover up the incident. In their report to the DPP's office, an internal police investigations team posited that the accused officers erased call logs from a mast in Tigoni, which would have been the pastor's location at the scene of accident. The officers are said to have further forged documents in regard to the accident. The penalty for obstruction of justice is 5 years imprisonment. The 2 will also be charged with neglect of duty, which Tobiko states they did by mishandling the case. Simon Kuria, who was presented as the driver of the Range Rover, will be charged with giving false information. Tobiko has emphasized that, as stipulated by the law, the 4 are to be treated as innocent until proven guilty. Sharon Momanyi, KTN News.
Now, health workers in the county of Nandi began their strike, joining 3 other counties that are still reeling from the problem. And tonight, county governors are saying that part of the blame over delayed salaries should go to the national government. Mercy Kandia tells us more.
Residents of Nandi County could not access any medical assistance from public facilities. The gates to this medical facility was closed. Inside, empty beds and patients left unattended. The health staff had downed their tools.
Sasa nikikaa hapa nitakula nini? Njaa tu. Jana nililala namna hii. Hakuna chochote. Asubuhi walileta uji kidogo kabisa.
About 882 health workers in 280 medical facilities raised complaints of unpaid July dues and delayed payments of statutory deductions on bank and SACCO loans, NSSF, NHIF help, among other deductions. Patients were forced to seek alternative treatment after union officials in charge of Kenya National Union of Nurses and Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Unions locked the hospital gate at the county referral hospital in Kapsabet.
We realize since the advent of devolution, issues of salaries, promotions and delays has always been the factor. So if county governments have been overwhelmed by the crisis in health, then why don't we be taken back to national government to address the issues? We don't want this supremacy battle between the county assembly and the county executives, because it has affected our movements.
The strike comes at a time when the office of the county executive and the Nandi County Assembly is locked in a tussle over the approval of the county's budget for the 2015-2016 financial year. After the Office of the Controller of Budgets rejected their initial budget draft, the county is yet to pay salaries of all county employees, including the striking nurses. Nandi Governor Cleophas Lagat has called on the county assembly to cut short an untimely 2-week recess in a bid to debate the budget issue. which he termed of extreme urgency. There was confusion in Eldoret when the union called for a strike Monday, with the county government now assuring its health workers of payment this week, the same seen in Nyeri County. Health devolution has been coupled by a myriad of challenges as patients bear the brunt of the push and pull activities of the union workers and the county governments. The striking health workers have since vowed to continue with their strike until their salaries and allowances are paid
from the GOK.
But the Council of Governors has put the blame squarely at the national government's doorstep.
The transitory arrangement for the budgetary transitory arrangements from one financial year to another, you all know them. So you have counties that don't have money to pay because the national government, as we speak, we are getting to September, they haven't released resources to counties. So you get people saying, making noise, they have a right to make noise, they have to be paid.
This is not the first time the counties are blaming the national government for the strikes over salaries.
I would also like you to take note that the people you are saying are on strike could be intern doctors. Interns have not been posted. That is a function of the Public Service Commission. And they will tell you we are now on strike. We have not received our salaries. Simply because they are interns. They are yet to join any service.
The unions have kept the county governments on toes. The county governments keep blaming the national government, and in between them, the patients bear the brunt. Marcy Kandia, KTN News.
And the Nandi governor will be joining us on this program to talk about that problem in just a short while. But before that, the war of words over the recently signed sugar deal between Kenya and Uganda has become more personal today, pitting allies of Deputy President William Ruto and those of CORD leader Raila Odinga against each other. This evening, the Deputy President himself went on Twitter to answer Raila on the latest accusations of graft. KTN's Wilson Buru has all the details.
You know, one of those days when you just sit in the office, twiddling your thumbs, asking when the clock will hit 5 p.m., mainly because you are so bored and you can't wait to go home. Well, today wasn't one of those days, at least not for our politicians. And it was all about the not-so-sweet Ugandan sugar deal. It all started with a tweet from Deputy President William Ruto directed at CORD leader Raila Odinga, asking him to explain why he allegedly took out a loan from Mumias Sugar as opposed to visiting a commercial bank. And he did not stop there. He followed up the tweet with another one urging CORD to present credible payment plans of owed debts. He then ended his Twitter attack by claiming that sugar cartels used the former Prime Minister's office to have him removed from the Agriculture Ministry because he had cancelled sugar licenses that ended their corrupt schemes. As is the norm, once an accusation is made, it has to be countered in equal measure.
He should carry his own cross, and he needs to go to many churches, the way he's doing of late, going to churches every Sunday in different parts of the country, as I think is part of the repentance he's doing. But God has not yet spoken to him.
What my mother cares about is her money, not that you fix Mumia's factory, but give our farmers our money. And this diversionary explanation about who may have stolen and who may have not. This country has anti-corruption agency. This country has police. It has everybody to deal with thieves.
It didn't take long for Jubilee MPs to conjure up a response to the accusations leveled against the government over the now controversial sugar deal. On Monday, CORD leader Raila Odinga made serious accusations of graft against the Deputy President that were not taken kindly by the DP's men.
Mr. Odinga's melodramatic lamentation are nothing but a torrent of crocodile tears. It is clear that the Lord of Poverty, and that's Honorable Raila Odinga, has been thriving. He has been the Lord of Poverty, has been thriving on the same dynamic which impoverished hard-working farmers.
That we are not going to allow the runaway corruption and greed that has perverted our country, driven by a few individuals and their accomplices.
Just like that, the debate over whether the sugar deal is good for the country or not became a continued verbal assault between CORD and Jubilee. While CORD continued to demand that the details of the deal be released,
We want to challenge the Jubilee government to publicize at the port of every entry how much sugar has come in from Uganda, how much VAT has been paid, how much sugar development levy has been paid, so that Kenyans can know.
Jubilee demanded answers on the loan that Raila had allegedly acquired from Mumia's Sugar.
Under what circumstances did Mr. Odinga and his companies associated with him contracted a debt of such a magnitude with the poor, innocent farmers of Western Province?
The debate over the sugar deal is not about to end anytime soon, but the question now remains, will Kenyans benefit from all this politicking and name-calling in the name of fighting for their rights? Only time will tell. Wilson Buru, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, the bittersweet sugar deal continues to cause controversy. That was a pretty high-profile tweet, and if we do consider that some issues may be getting lost here, our big Q this evening, we're asking you whether you think that it is right for the Deputy President to fight with Raila Odinga on Twitter. Quite a few words were had. What's your opinion on that? Go ahead and share with us this evening, and you can do that by sending us a tweet at Kachingira at KTN News KE. You can also send an SMS to 22155. The hashtag is Ruto versus Raila. We look forward to hearing from you on that. Right now, though, let's take our attention back to that nurses' strike, and we're joined now by the Nandi governor. He's in Eldoret this evening, Cleophas Lagat, and we're going to talk a little bit about that situation in his county and how we hope it can be resolved. Nandi governor, I hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining us this evening. The situation is something that the Council of Governors says the national government should take some responsibility for. What is the situation in your county? Why do we have this crisis?
Thank you very much, Nancy, for having me tonight. Thank you, Nancy, for having me tonight in the studio.
All right. I don't know if you heard my question, but I was saying that the Council of Governors says that the national government is partly to blame for this problem because they have delayed to release the funds. But in your county, why do we have this situation? I know there's been some tussle between the MCAs and the executive, but where is this problem coming from?
Thank you very much, Nancy, for having me in the studio tonight. For Nandi case, it's quite different from that issue of the strike. Nandi County, we have money in our account. We have a problem with the MCS, with the Speaker of the County Assembly. So when we pass the budget,
what is the problem? Yes.
Yeah, when the budget was passed on the 30th of June, it went to the controller of budget, and it was some issues was raised, and in those issues I asked the county assembly to address them. So when I asked them to address those issues, the speaker decided to send the MCS on recess and kept the budget. So as we stand now, we don't have a budget in Nandi County. The speaker decided to have to have the budget in the county assembly, and then we ask them to approve so that I can append my signature and they are paid because we have money in our account ourselves. However, the speaker decided not to convene the county assembly so that they discuss or to table the issue of the budget so that we can pay all the workers. All the workers have not been paid. It's not only the
Right, but isn't this a pretty big indictment of the way your county government is running? Because essentially what you're saying is all these workers have not been paid because you as a county government cannot agree on a few simple things. The money is there.
Yes, what happened? Yeah, what happened? They wanted to build a county assembly, and yet we have a very good county assembly. So I said as a governor, that money should go to something that is core projects. And one of the core projects, we decided to build milk cooling plants, so that these milk cooling plants will generate income. And of course, we can have unemployment, because those 30 wards will have at least a cooling plant and AI services, so that it can go to meaningful venture. So I said no to constructing a county assembly, and that was the point of departure.
All right, but even when you do have a point of departure, shouldn't there be a system that ensures things like payment of salaries for county workers still happen, whether you're sorting out certain issues or not? And so based on that, what are you doing to make sure you don't have this situation again the next time that this process needs to happen?
Yes, we don't have a dispute as yet, because what happened is that when you give the budget to the county assembly, first they must discuss, and when they discuss and refuse, or if there's a dispute or it was rejected, then that's when the dispute comes in. So as it stands now, the county assembly must discuss that budget so that we know whether they are passing it or rejecting the budget. And if they reject the budget, then now we can ask the controller budget to give us salaries. So we are asking the county assembly to convene as soon as it's practical, so that we can assist workers and even pay our suppliers, because we have not paid suppliers, even the trucks, leave alone even salaries.
All right. So finally, do you have any good news for the workers? When can they expect to get paid?
Yeah, we are going to discuss tomorrow with the MCS and ensure that they pass the budget so that we can pay the workers in good time.
All right. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us this evening, Nandi Governor Cleophas Lagat. You're watching KTN Prime. We're going to take a quick break right now, but stay with us. So much more ahead on the program. Welcome back to KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us as we continue. Let me remind you of our big Q this evening. The focus of our big Q is a high-profile Twitter altercation, or what you might call a tweet, depending on which digital generation you belong to. Let's take a look at some of your responses to that. We were asking you whether you thought it was right for the DP to answer Raila on this issue on Twitter in the manner that he did. I've got a tweet here from Wasabi Million. Yours is an interesting one. You say, yes, apparently this is what was understood as digital government. And there's one here from Dr. Kanina. You say, fighting on Twitter will change nothing on the ground. In fact, some farmers probably don't even have Twitter. These accusations should be taken to court. And there's another one here from, just get this, this is Baringo. You say Ruto can answer or talk about any issue on any communication platform so long as the message gets home. Well, do continue to share your thoughts on that with us. Remember, the hashtag is Ruto versus Raila. You can also send an SMS to 22155, and we look forward to hearing from you on that. Now, as we continue, stakeholders are calling for a speedy review of the Prisons Act and the Borstal Institutions Act to make life easier for young offenders. KTN's Francis Ontomwa now takes a look at the lives of juvenile offenders at one institution at the coast.
A unique day in the calendar of Shimulatewa Borstal Institution, from electric performances to solemn tunes, the voices telling how exceptional the day was going to be. This was a parents' open day, and many traveled from far and wide to be here. Aside from Kakamega's Shikusa, it's the only other correctional facility for young offenders in the entire country.
We don't see them as offenders. we see them as people who are as children or juvenile who are in conflict with the law. That is the perception. And we also say that they are never sentenced to Boston. They are committed to Boston. So there are two. You can see we are trying to run away from what? The perception that we have with the adult offenders.
It's a happy reunion for Lucy Njoki and her grandson. It has been long and the meeting makes tears roll down her cheeks. He was brought here several weeks back and already he is exhibiting lots of positivity.
Vile nimeingia hapa nimeshtuka kumuona kwa sababu vile alikuja sivyo yuko amebadilika, ako na afya mzuri na nimefurahi kukuta vile yuko. Maana hivyo yuko sivyo alikuwa.
Every year an individual assessment is carried for the 312 boys and depending on the outcome, some leave the institution for a 2-year probation while others get retained. Since 1977, the laws have remained the same and this is the reason why panic is clear with deadlines for review approaching.
We are trying to beat the deadline of 27th of August. And some of the things which come up is like we are trying to put in the UN standard minimum rules. We have the Havana rules, which used to be called the Tokyo rules, which govern. They are the SMRs, which govern the juvenile in all all the juvenile correctional centers in the world.
These teenagers are all between 15 and 18. Some are here on minor crimes, while others have been kept on capital offences for a period not exceeding 3 years. And although many associate all manner of negativity to these children, they keep excelling in not only vocational training, but also in academics. This was the top KCPE school last year in Kisauni constituency, the top student garnering 408 marks out of the possible 500.
We had 32 who did their standard 8 and 22 qualified to join secondary school. And the three are in our local Shimolatewa High School.
Mimi kwangu naona pia mimi kuna pali nimepotea kidogo. Kwa sababu kama ningefikiria mtoto wangu amekataa kwenda shule, ningemuuliza nini naweza fanya baada ya kumwachilia na kumtupa.
There is no female postal institution in the country. Among changes expected is the review of the current curriculum that will allow the children undergo proper correction and empowerment. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
Let's turn our attention a little further afield. South Sudan President Salva Kiir declined to sign a peace deal proposed by regional leaders on Monday. So what exactly about this deal was he opposed to? KTN's Deputy Managing Editor Ellen Wanjiru takes a deeper look at the proposals from Salva Kiir's rivals.
The August 17th deadline came and went with no deal for South Sudan.
In recent days, it became very clear that most of the commanders in the ground do no longer, have Riek Machar as their leader. And if that is the case, the government have a responsibility to ensure that the peace agreement that could be reached in Addis Ababa is going to be respected on the ground.
The much-anticipated peace deal fell through, at least for now. In the next 2 weeks, President Salva Kiir is expected to decide on a number of proposals fronted by IGAD. This include a designated 30-month transition period with Kiir as president, with a first vice president post allocated to the rebels. They were also expected to agree that elections would be held 2 months after the close of the interim period, and both Kiir and Machar would be eligible to run. A member of IGAD's mediation team said Kiir had reservations over the proposal to demilitarize the capital, Juba, and that he also sought to scrap a provision that calls for consultations with Machar on his proposed powers, functions, and responsibilities. Kiir's delegation was also reported to have criticized other aspects of the proposal, including an 18-month deadline for the integration of armed forces, saying this must be done in less than 6 months. Rebel leader Riek Machar had no objection to their proposals.
We are much ready to end the war, and that's why we took this step this afternoon, sign the agreement.
The government wants to make sure that any peace agreement reached will lead to silence of gun
And even if there are still some details to be worked out, they will have peace.
The U.S. has renewed a threat to raise pressure on those opposing the peace proposal. Numerous rounds of negotiations have failed to end fighting that has killed over 10,000 people and displaced more than 2 million. Ellen Wanjiro, KTN News.
No deal just yet. Let me remind you of our big Q this evening. We're asking you whether you think that it was right for Deputy President Ruto to get into a war of words with Raila Odinga on Twitter. Let's take a look at some of your responses. One here from Jocelyn Mainga. You say, it's a no for you. Face-to-face dialogue is the way to go. Social media makes it look like a game. And one here from Edgar, I beg your pardon, this is from Milan Wasabi. And you say that Ruto can answer or talk about any issue. This was his prerogative. Kaloke Mwalimu, you say, I think there is more to this than meets the eye when it comes to the sugar thing. And you say sooner or later we will know. There's another one here. This one comes in from JSay. And you say that this was wrong. We cannot respect leaders who do things like this. Samuel Pio, we say these are simple diversionary tactics. Now it's not Uganda sugar, but Raila Ruto. Kenyans are the judges. Well, you go ahead, continue to be the judge. Give us your opinion by tweeting us at KTN News KE at Kachungira, or send an SMS to 22155. Later on, I'll have a poll result for you. We take a quick break right now, but on the other side of that is business. Welcome to KTN Business. Now, here's something you won't hear very often. It might just be profitable to be in the dark, because you will soon get compensation from Kenya Power for outages that last more than 3 hours. Parliamentarians say that the proposal, part of an amendment to the Energy Act, will ensure that Kenya Power takes responsibility for financial losses and physical injuries due to power outages, which are a common occurrence in the country. KTN's Charles Gitonga reports.
Kenya Power will soon be required to take more responsibility over cases of power outage in the country as Parliament moves to amend the current Energy Act. If the proposal becomes law, the power distributor will be required to compensate domestic, business and industrial consumers for blackouts lasting more than 3 hours in a day. According to the bill, the compensation packs should cover financial losses and physical injuries caused. We visited businesses in Nairobi's Central Business District, and the owners had a story to tell on how frequent blackouts affect the operations. For instance, owners of this bakery, Black Forest House, have to throw out 40 cakes in a month due to power outage, which they say cost them at least 60,000 shillings. Gibson Coffee House also loses between 15 to 20,000 shillings worth of business every month.
If the power is off also, and the machine is turned on, when it comes, there's a breakage of our machine. They come with force, then the oven is burned. We have to call our oven repair guy to come and repair. There's an extra cost for that also.
When we have a power blackout, we can't brew our coffee because the machine will be off. So maybe we have customer who wanted coffee that time. We can't brew coffee. So we'll have some delays, and they'll be disappointed because maybe some are in a hurry to leave.
According to the International Energy Agency, Kenyan homes and industries experience more than 600 hours of power outage, which translates to billions of shillings worth of business losses and physical injuries. It also means that the cost of doing business increases as businesses invest in alternative means of electricity, such as diesel-powered generators. As such, the proposed amendment is being met with excitement among domestic consumers who feel this will finally compel Kenya Power to provide seamless power supply or bear the painful consequences.
Means that Kenyans, we are moving from third world to a first world country. The big question is, will Kenya Power be able to compensate? This kind of compensation also should be very much, should be examined with a lot of care, so that we are not going to put our Kenya Power into financial constraints.
The power distributor says outages are the result of old and run-down equipment and infrastructure that is prone to wastage and leakages. Kenya Power plans to spend up to 156 billion shillings in the next 3 years to upgrade its aging infrastructure to enable it to handle the 5,000 megawatts expected to be loaded on the grid by 2017. Charles Gitonga, KTN News.
Well, hopefully that will translate into fewer blackouts. Now, Safaricom has once again voiced its opposition to the bill that seeks to declare firms with more than 50% market share as dominant. Safaricom CEO says that the bill is punitive since it does not factor in whether or not the firm in question was abusing its position and was akin to punishing prudently managed firms for being successful. He urged regulators to rethink the plan.
Don't you think that Safaricom deserves this title or being elevated to a dominant company?
I'm not debating the title. The title is not the problem.
Yes.
It's the punishment which people are trying to exert on success. You know, when you do the analysis, you may well find Safaricom to be dominant in a number of sectors. We have 6 to 7% market share. But would you punish someone who invests in the country every time they hit 50% market share and immediately try to to control their pricing, to control their investment, to control their promotions? These are all to force them to share that which they've invested in. And incidentally, if you were to do that with Safaricom, you'd also have to do that with Coca-Cola. You'd have to do it with Bidco. You'd have to do it with the Nation Media Group. I mean, you guys here at Standard might be happy about that, but there are a number of companies who have invested in their own innovations to grow, to be successful. You would absolutely discourage anyone from wanting to come and invest in Kenya if they believe that by achieving success you would want to be petty-minded and destroy it. And incidentally, let me be clear, I don't think that there's a huge swathe of opinion in favor of punishing Safaricom's success. I think there's probably one or two people, and I think it's ill-informed, and I'm sure that both the parliamentarians and those who are in authority will see sense and will act accordingly.
Now, when table banking was first introduced in Siaya County, many took it as a joke, while others thought it was a scheme to fleece innocent Kenyans of their money. But, as Victor Agali reports, it took the efforts of one woman to mobilize an entire sub-county into joining the venture after they saw how she had reaped from it.
Members of Bia Jakinda Self-Help Group in South Sako Ward in Bondo praised the Almighty before commencing with their monthly mandate of pulling their funds, investing it and reaping a healthy harvest. The group began their humble tale 1 year ago when Caroline Atieno was a samosa vendor at Bondo Town.
Lakini nilikuwa nawafanya, ninawafundisha, ninarudisha nyuma sababu mimi nimeteseka maishani mwangu. Tangu nioleke, nimepika hata kwa mjengo, nimeuza njugu. Na nilikuwa naambia mama usikae ungoje bwana. Sasa wakati walikuwa nasikia nikawaambia wengine walinijua. Na ukikuja saa zingine mama pia ana pesa, unanyenyekea, unamwambia tu hata kama unakuja tu usiwe na uoga. Anaweza roll leave ama 1 month ama 2 months. Baada ya 3rd month atakuwa amepata hata hiyo 5,000.
She was introduced to table banking by Joyful Women Organization. After learning the trade, she took it upon herself to mobilize women in Bondo constituency to join the venture. In a span of just 1 year, Caroline had recruited more than 1,000 members who were spread across 32 groups with a minimum turnover of not less than 400,000 shillings a month.
Table banking inatusaidia juu tunachukua, tunaenda nayo, tunachukua na mavitu, tunarudi, tunauza tena, tunapata pesa ya kuleta kwa table banking.
It has empowered me a lot. I've started to build my house because of this.
Today, the members have assembled and each member surrenders the money they had borrowed as they borrow more. Most of the members have ventured into small businesses while others have diversified into poultry farming. Tella Atieno, who joined the venture September last year, is among the hundreds of success stories under Joywo. She owns a retail shop at the nearby Sakwa shopping center.
Naweza chukua pesa huko, hata kama deni iko nje, nikienda huko nilete pesa, bado tunaweza enda tu tulete vitu, alafu tunarudisha na interest. Ile pesa yetu inaendelea kukua huko pia.
Table banking has now become the in thing in the expansive Luo Nyanza, giving the rural population easy loan access that is a source of their daily bread. Victor Ogale, KTN News, Siaya County.
Let's now take a look at the day's financial report. And that's how your money works for you today. With that, we wrap up KTN Business. We'll take a quick break, and after that, we'll find out what's happening in the world of sport. Time for your sports updates on KTN Prime. The team representing Kenya at the forthcoming World Athletics Championships in Beijing jetted out of the country last night, full of expectations to conquer the world in as many races as possible. A total of 50 athletes under the stewardship of the able Julius Kira will represent Kenya at the World Athletics Championships that are set to start on Saturday at the Bird's Nest Stadium. The Kenyan team will be charged with the huge responsibility of bettering the performance of the 2013 team that returned home with 5 gold medals. Milka Chemos, Ezekiel Kemboy, Asbel Kiprop, Eunice Sum and Edna Kiplagat will all be hoping to defend their titles.
So we are going to fight for the whole events that we are going to participate. We really need the calls when we attend the championship. But for sure there is no need of naming or saying 10 medals, 20, but the one we will go and fight for and what we can get, we appreciate on that.
Yeah, the team is nice. We have a lot of young guys. Me being Babel, I think I'm going to take the boys and girls to try our best in Beijing.
In the East Africa, Brookside-sponsored secondary school games entered their third day today, Tuesday, in Kigali, Rwanda, with Kenyan schools producing impressive results. Upper Hill High School recorded the highest score of the day. Here are some of the results as compiled by Robinson Okenye, who is in Rwanda for the games.
The Brookside East Africa Secondary School Championship, brought to you by Brookside. Brookside, nurturing sporting talent.
After some lackluster performances by some of the Kenyan schools in yesterday's games, today a majority of the Kenyan teams put on a show in an effort to seek qualification to the next round of the competition as the games got into day 3 in Uya, Rwanda. In basketball, after losing the first match of the games, Upper Hill finally got to show what they are made of as they thrashed Nsumba 125-26 in a match that was one-sided. Upper Hill will now face APE Rugunga from Rwanda in the next game. In another match, Apika from Rwanda suffered a 64-54 loss as Nyakabiga from Burundi emerged 85-81 winners against Kibuli from Uganda. In hockey, it was once again time for Kenyans to shine as Trans Nzoia from Kenya put aside yesterday's loss to Sinyolo to claw back Kakungulu Memorial 7-0. Diana Wino opened the scoring for the Kenyan girls before doubling up her account. But it was our counterpart, Rachel Atieno, who still shone the brightest as she sounded the both 3 times in the match. Grace Akinyi sounded a brace to give Trans Nzoia a 7-0 win. The Kenyan girls believe they have what it takes to win this year's title, despite losing their first match yesterday. In other matches of the day, Sinyolo powered past Kakungulu with a 4-0 win. In the boys' tie, St. Anthony emerged 5-0 winners over St. Mary's Kisubi.
Even though we scored 5, our target was 10 goals. Because as it is now, the race is for the goals. So the one with the highest goal, in case of a tie, the goals will decide.
In rugby, Kenyan champions Lisa Hill made a meal of Maseno in a match that the Lakeside boys seem to be chasing shadows.
It's very competitive and it's going to be a grueling week of rugby for the boys. Every team is playing 6 games, a game a day with 1 day of resting, and all the teams that are playing here are quite good.
The games continue tomorrow. Day 3 has been phenomenal for Kenyan teams who registered important wins in different games. But for now, it's a race against time as the battle to finish top of the group hots up. For KTN Sports, I'm Robinson Okenye in Huye, Rwanda.
Brookside and Strathmore University are offering all-rounded East African boys and girls a chance to win a university scholarship. Play at the Brookside East African Secondary Schools Championship in Rwanda to get spotted for final selection to attend the boot camp in December. Score A- in KCSE or the equivalent in the other participating countries and you will get shortlisted for final selection. Brookside, nurturing sports talents and promoting academics.
And back in Kenya, Sammy Shule can breathe easy tonight after the Sports Disputes Tribunal exonerated him from any wrongdoing and therefore made him fit to resume his football duties. Shule was suspended by Football Kenya Federation in 2012 for allegedly taking football matters to court.
And it was triggered by the fact that came to his attention after perusing the contents of the petition filed with the Sports Act.
The length of the suspension imposed is unreasonable, harsh, and oppressive, and is certainly out of proportion with the offence alleged to have been committed.
An order that the alleged and procedural and lawful suspension of Mr. Shule from football-related activities for 6 years is oppressive, unreasonable, and malicious.
I expected this. I knew justice was going to happen today. Going by the fact that, you know, the mention of the case came exactly on my 48th birthday, which was on the 18th of May. And then the ruling again also fell on the 18th, which is today. So those 18 numbers meant something, so I knew I was going to go through.
Well, that's it for sports this evening. Let's take a look at the weather now.
KTN Weather in association with Morteen Dew.
Mama has Morteen Dew, which makes mosquitoes go away and not come back the whole night. So you get a peaceful night's sleep all night long.
Morteen Dew. A peaceful night is a Morteen Dew night.
Right, well, going back to our big Q this evening, our hashtag was Ruto versus Raila. We've got so much feedback on that. Thank you for participating. The question was whether you thought it was right for the Deputy President to get into a war of words with Raila on Twitter over this sugar issue. Well, let's take a look at some of your tweets. Joel Gatama, you say, well, yes, this is the only way Wanjiku gets to know about the secrets such as commercial loans. And there's another one here from Mike Mtambo. You say no, it wasn't right. Why didn't the DP raise these issues earlier on? We need full disclosure about this sugar deal. And Armoja, you say that was immature for Ruto and Raila. They act like my 2-year-old twins. And one here from Fintan Dinya, you say the Lord of Poverty and the Lord of Corruption talks are aimed at dividing Kenyans. Well, we certainly hope that it won't get to that. But thank you very much for sharing your feedback with us this evening on KTN Prime. You can continue that conversation on Twitter. Ruto versus Raila is the hashtag. Lots of interesting opinions there. You can go and take a look. Well, thank you very much for being a part of the program this evening. It was great to have you. Our sign language interpreter was Meresha Owiti. I'm Nancy Kachingira. That's it for for KTN Prime.